Hello. Pandemic's still going on then. So when I'm not making YouTube videos, and like, I know it's hard to believe because it must take up so much time making one video every 6 months. I work with data, and recently I've been working with some pretty horrific data because there's a whole pandemic on. I'm looking at people losing their jobs and people dying of a horrible virus. So I thought I would use my powers for good and I would analyze my IMDb ratings to find out what my hottest takes were. To stop you being so heartbroken when I've not uploaded a video, why not burn every bridge I've got and just share all my truly horrible opinions so no one cares anymore? Easy. So the way I've done this is I have exported my IMDb data and I have put it in Power BI, which is a nice little dashboard making tool, so I can show you all the exciting statistics that I have for you. And I've done this in 3 parts. So I've got a summary of like the basic stuff, I've got my hottest movie takes, and then my hottest director takes. It's all based on the stats. I've got my work in, I can back it all up. Let's get on with it. So for a start, I have rated 867 movies on IMDb and from 658 directors. I don't think this is like the total number of movies that I've watched ever, because I don't think I've rated every movie I've seen on IMDb. The year that I've rated the most movies from is 2019 with 83, and all of my top 10 years for movies rated are in the 2000s. This is when I did most of my media consumption. In terms of my most rated directors, we've got a very interesting one at the top. Kunihiko Uyama, who you might not have heard of, because I had also not heard of him despite watching 11 of his movies. He is the director of pretty much all of the Pokemon movies, which I have seen for some reason. But then followed by some like classics you would expect: Tim Burton, Steven Spielberg, Tarantino, Nolan, Fincher, Del Toro, and then we've got like some animation from Musker and Clements. You get the picture. It's the people you expect to see. Tasty little pie chart. You can see my most rated genres. So right at the top we've got adventure and comedy. These are genres that you get applied to like everything. We can see my average rating by year. So we can see that this is from 1970 onwards, because before that I tend to have watched 1 or 2 movies from each of the years, and that skews the ratings massively. But we can see that my highest rated year, 1974. I'll grab you the movies that make that up in post. We can see we've got a real dip in the mid-2000s. I always say that the mid-2000s were garbage for movies, and this proves it, apparently. But then, I've got a cheeky little forecast for the next 20 years of movies. So keep an eye out for 2029. It's a real dark horse. It's got some great movies, but honestly, if you're thinking about going to the cinema in 2036, don't bother. It's all trash. We've seen Shrek 15. It's terrible. So now we got the summary out of the way, let's get on to my god-awful takes. So the bulk of the analysis I've done on this is working out the difference between my rating and other users' ratings. So say if I've rated a movie 10 and on average IMDb users have rated it 6, that would be a score of 4. So now let's examine some of those movies. And this is the part where people are going to be like a little bit fuming. So I think you should save all that energy. It's all really good. Put it in the comments and like artificially boost this video's engagement. So here come my top 10 movies that I rate higher than other IMDb users. So right at the bottom I've got What We Do in the Shadows. It's a great film, Taika Waititi, like we all love him. Next up we got Sea Fever, which is a movie that came out this year. I saw it at the Glasgow Film Festival, which is like the last thing I managed to do before lockdown. Maybe just like the experience of me watching it like with a big crowd, it was like the world premiere or something. Like maybe that's just boosted it a bit for me, but I loved it. Next we've got Get Out, which is like another really well-liked movie. Emma from this year, I thought it was great. Like, I loved that film. It's not just a great period movie, it's a great comedy. And like, I've not seen the Gwyneth Paltrow Emma adaptation, and I didn't know the story, so like, I think it's just really good. I've got The Big Sick next. I'm not a huge rom-com guy, but like, I think this is like maybe my favorite. It's really cute. I really recommend it. A Quiet Place, honestly, like, I don't think it's controversial to say it's great. It's like one of the best horror movies of the last 10 years or something. Next up we got The Shape of Water, which I really like Guillermo del Toro. I don't think it's surprising that The Shape of Water is up here. Next up is Poltergeist. I did only just watch recently, but I thought it was amazing. Like, I think that's one of my favorite kind of 80s horror movies. Next up is Black Christmas. And this is where it starts getting weird. Black Christmas was a movie that came out last year. I saw it using my Cineworld Unlimited card. I wouldn't have gone to see it otherwise. I just kind of happened on it by chance. And I thought it was fine. And I don't know how this has happened, but I gave it a 6 out of 10, and the IMDb rating for it is 3.2. So I think people may just hate women a little bit. This is kind of like, I guess, a feminist reimagining of like an old horror movie. So maybe people who liked the original one came in and they were like, oh no, it's women now. I thought it was fine. I think it missed a lot of opportunities and it didn't take the concept in like a direction that was interesting. But like, it's fine. At number 2 is the one that is going to make everyone mad, and that is because it is 2019's Cats. I'm not surprised to see this high up here, but I like Cats. I like the movie Cats. And the reason why I like it is I think I've only seen it once. I hadn't seen the musical or heard like any of the songs other than Memory, and I was just kind of caught up in the whole spectacle of it all. Everything they were throwing at me, I was just lapping it up like a cat at a bowl of milk. I like Cats, and I'm not ashamed to say it. Is it a good movie? No. I don't think it is. I really like musicals. Seeing it in the cinema was an entire experience. What's so controversial about that? And then finally at number 1, it is Mandy, the Panos Cosmatos movie starring Nick Cage. I thought it was amazing, and I think it's one of the best Nick Cage performances in recent memory. There's a scene where he has a chainsaw fight with someone. Like, they both have chainsaws and they're having like a sword fight. And I think that's all you need to know. Now for the top 10 that I think are a lot worse than they are rated on average on IMDb. So joint number 10, we have Star Wars Episode 1, The Phantom Menace, and Joker from last year. I think one of these might be controversial and the other one isn't. We all know that the Star Wars prequels aren't great. There's good stuff in them. The Phantom Menace is the most boring of all of them. It's about trade. I think, like, if you're going to defend the prequels, you're going to be defending 2 and 3. I think 1 is like, what is this? Joker, while I agree that Joaquin Phoenix gives a great performance, the rest of the movie is like a bit naff. The plot doesn't really go anywhere, and like the message behind the film I don't think is particularly interesting. Next up is Ice Age, which I think a lot of people have nostalgia for. I definitely watched it as a kid. I watched it recently and I didn't think it was any good. Whatever, it's a kid's film. Next up is The Hunger Games Mockingjay Part 1, which is really boring. It's a classic case of we split the movie in 2 and the first half has all the garbage in it, which is the same as the last Harry Potter film, it's the same as the Divergent series, which is my favourite film story, where they split the last movie into 2 and then they never made the second part. Next we have 300, the Zack Snyder movie. I watched this for the first time during lockdown and it is machismo garbage. I hated it. It's boring. Like the This Is Sparta scene, you expect that to be like the dramatic climax. If you've not seen the film, like I hadn't, I was going in and I was thinking, oh, the This Is Sparta is like, the tension's been building up for so long and then he kicks this dude in a pit because he's just like proud of his nation. It happens like 5 minutes in, unprovoked by anything. It's insane. And like then the rest of the movie is like boring slow motion action. Next up, it's the South Park movie. Sorry, I just don't like that kind of comedy. If you like it, that's fine. I've never watched South Park, the TV show, so this is probably on me, but like, it's just not my kind of thing. Next up, it's Love Never Dies, the filmed version of the Phantom of the Opera sequel. I didn't like Phantom of the Opera, the musical, very much. I think there are like 2 good moments in it, and one of them is where he's going, "Sing for me, my angel of music." The sequel has no good bits in it. It's confusing and terrible. Skip past that one. The musical theatre fans are hating me. We've got Clash of the Titans, which is the remake, not the original. It's boring and terrible, and it's all brown and it's bad. Number 3, we've got Avatar. I don't think Avatar is a bad movie. I think I saw it like 3 years after it came out on a really tiny television, and I was like, I don't get what all the fuss is about, which is like entirely on me. I think if I saw it in the cinema in like a big IMAX screen or whatever with my 3D glasses on, and I'm just like looking at some blue people, maybe that would have been great. Instead, I saw tiny 2D version where the plot makes no sense and it's really boring. At number 2, I have got Sausage Party, which I rated 4.1 points below average, which I think tells you a lot. I didn't like it at all. If you haven't seen it, I would recommend never watch it. If you have seen it, you can never remove it from your brain. And so, like, I'm starting the Sausage Party Survivors group where we can talk about it. At number 1, it's Team America World Police. Yeah, again, I don't really like the South Park kind of comedy from Trey Parker. I think there's some funny bits in it. Like, I think that it's going to be 9/11 times 100 is a very funny joke. I can't remember anything else about it. Now let's move on to the directors. We're going to have some real fun here. But before we get started on the top 10 and bottom 10, let's call this section Lukewarm Takes. No takes at all. These are just room temperature takes where I have managed to rate these directors' movies on average exactly the same as other IMDb users. James Mangold, John Musker and Ron Clements, Andrew Stanton, Brad Bird, Mike Mitchell, and Stanley Kubrick. Middle of the road. My takes on these people are completely average. I think they are as good as people think they are. So, let's start with the top 10 directors that I rank higher than average. Number 10, it's Nick Park, off of Aardman, which I don't think is surprising. If you know me, I love stop motion animation. I love Aardman in particular. I've probably rated like all the Wallace and Gromits like 10 out of 10, and this will only be dragged down by Early Man, which I didn't think was that good. At number 9, it's Tom Hooper. So I think what's happened here is Cats has dragged him up, because I think my opinion on The King's Speech and Les Mis is probably bang average. I think like they're both fine. I like The King's Speech. I think Les Mis is fine. I think this is just dragged up by everyone hating Cat. At number 8, it's Yorgos Lanthimos. So I love The Favourite. I think The Lobster, Killing of a Sacred Deer are very funny movies in a very strange way. He's an acquired taste, and I can understand why I like him more than average. Next up is Guillermo del Toro. I think he's incredible. You've already seen that I love The Shape of Water. I love all his movies. I'm still getting through them. I've not yet seen Mimic, Kronos, or Crimson Peak, but like, I'll get there. Next up, a truly incredible opinion from me. It's Kenny Ortega. You might not recognize that name. He is the director of High School Musical. I love the High School Musical movies. I think they're just great fun. And maybe I have nostalgia for them, but like, they're good movies, actually. Next up, it's James Bobin. Again, not a name you might recognize. He directed The Muppets, the new one with Amy Adams. He also directed Muppets Most Wanted, and he directed Dora and the City of Gold. I like all those movies. I think Muppets Most Wanted was a little bit disappointing, but I think it's great fun. I love The Muppets. Next up, we've got the Coen Brothers. Fargo is maybe one of my favourite movies. I've got a lot of respect for like Hail Caesar and stuff like that. In second place, Rian Johnson. I love Knives Out. I love The Last Jedi. I think Looper is pretty good. I think it's going to be The Last Jedi dragging this one up. I think that is probably on average quite low, because for some reason some people don't like it. And then top of the pile is Edgar Wright. I think that this is also unsurprising. I think that I've given maybe all his movies 10 out of 10 on IMDb. But yeah, I think he's a really great director. And I hope that when Last Night in Soho finally comes out, that it is as good as I hope it is. Because I think Anya Taylor-Joy is incredible, and I love to see her. Now for the top 10 directors that I think are worse than other people think they are. At number 10, it's Duncan Jones. I think it's a bit of a shame. I love Moon. I think that Mute and Warcraft are kind of garbage. I don't know if he's got any other movies, but those are the ones that I've seen. Next up, Francis Lawrence, who I didn't immediately recognise. Apparently he directed the last 3 Hunger Games movies and I Am Legend. Apparently I rated the Hunger Games way lower than average, so I guess that is an extension of this. Next up is Louis Leterrier. He directed Clash of the Titans, which we've talked about earlier. He also did Now You See Me and Incredible Hulk, which I've also rated on here. The one thing that is dragging him up a bit is Grimsby, starring Sacha Baron Cohen. I like that film. It might just be because I grew up quite near Grimsby. Yeah, I think that film's fine. Next up is George Lucas. I think I would have rated episodes 1, 2, and 3 below average, and then episode 4 above average. Next up is Paul W.S. Anderson. I like the Resident Evil movies. They're all terrible, and I will have rated them as such. Next up is Conrad Vernon, who I have not heard of, but he's one of the guys responsible for Sausage Party, so that's how this has happened. Apparently he also directed Shrek 2 and Monsters vs. Aliens. Shrek 2 is fine. Monsters vs. Aliens is fine. At number 4, we've got Michael Bay. I don't think I've ever seen a good Michael Bay movie. Apparently, on average, I have rated his movies 2 IMDb points lower than other people. That's because all of the Transformers movies are bad, actually. Even the first one, that you might think is good, is bad. At number 3, it's Robert Schwenkt, who you won't have heard of. He directed the second and third Divergent movies, which we've already gone on about. They're terrible. He also directed Red, which is that movie about old hitmen. I didn't like it. At number 2, we've got Kunihiko Yuyama, who we've already talked about as the Pokemon guy. The Pokemon movies, the first one's pretty good. The rest of them are probably not. Maybe there's some good ones in there, but apparently I've seen 11 of them. They're all the same. And I will keep watching them, and I will keep rating them low on IMDb. And there's nothing you can do to stop me. And at number 1, the director that I rate worse than average is Zack Snyder. According to this, I have seen 6 movies by him. Those are 300, Batman vs Superman, Justice League, Man of Steel, Sucker Punch, and Watchmen. They are all not very good. I will stand up for Watchmen a little bit. No, I won't actually. It's far too long and it's quite boring, and I think it is just carried by the strength of the comic book Watchmen. Release the Snyder Cut so I can hate on it. So there you have it. Those are my mathematically hottest takes. And like, you don't often hear hot and maths in the same sentence. I think the real takeaways here is that I love Cats and I hate Zack Snyder. So I will try and do more videos in the future, because like, it's nice to do something creative to take my mind off things. So if you like enjoyed this, you want to leave me some hot takes in the comments, we can have a competition to see who has the hottest take. Maybe that'll be fun. Like, subscribe, do whatever you want. It's up to you. It's your life. I don't know you. And I'll see you later. Hopefully not 6 months later, when we're still in a pandemic.